In the heart of Osaka rises a fortress that once held the fate of an entire nation within its walls, a monument not only of stone and gold, but of vision, ambition, and the fragile nature of power. Osaka Castle began in 1583 on the former grounds of Ishiyama Hongan-ji, when the most formidable warlord of his age, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, set out to build something the country had never seen before. He did not intend to create merely a residence. He imagined the physical center of a unified Japan, a stronghold that would declare, in stone and light, the end of a century of civil war. The scale of the project was unprecedented. Enormous granite blocks were cut from distant quarries and transported across land and water by tens of thousands of laborers. Some of these stones weighed more than 100 tons. Even today, standing at the base of the walls and looking upward, one feels the same sense of calculated awe that visitors must have felt more than 400 years ago. These walls were not only defensive structures, they were statements. They told every approaching lord and every arriving envoy that the era of fragmentation had ended and that a single authority now stood at the center of the realm. The walls rise more than 30 meters, perfectly fitted without mortar, their surfaces reflecting the changing light of morning and evening. Around them stretch vast moats, layered gates, and carefully angled pathways designed to slow an enemy's advance and expose them to defending above. Every turn, every bridge, every opening was part of a larger strategy. This was architecture as military thought made visible. Above these foundations, the main tower lifted its white walls and sweeping roofs toward the sky. The structure seen today, reconstructed in 1931 and restored again in 1997, follows the form of the original 16th century tenchu. Its green tiles curve upward like the wings of a great bird. And along the ridgelines, gold ornaments catch the sun. From a distance, the tower appears almost weightless, as if floating above the massive stones that support it. Yet this visual elegance was intentional. Power here was not meant to appear heavy, it was meant to appear eternal. At the top of the roof sit the golden shachihoko, mythical creatures believed to command the rain and guard against fire. Their presence was both spiritual and political. They were protectors of the structure, but also symbols of the ruler's connection to divine authority. In an age when belief and governance were inseparable, such details reinforced the idea that this castle was more than a military headquarters. It was the heart of a new order. Inside the walls, life unfolded in a world of ritual precision and controlled magnificence. Hideyoshi ruled here not only as a general, but as the unifier of the country. The rooms were filled with the quiet movement of silk, the scent of incense, the polished glow of wooden floors. Tea ceremonies took place in carefully arranged chambers where every gesture carried meaning. The choice of bowl, the angle of a bow, the placement of a scroll, all were forms of political language. In these moments, culture became diplomacy, and refinement became a tool of governance. Beyond the screen stood armored guards, motionless, listening. Messengers arrived and departed. Alliances were confirmed. Loyalties were tested. The castle was never simply a home. It was a stage upon which the future of the nation was constantly negotiated. And yet, within this magnificence lived a quiet tension. A power built so quickly and so absolutely could never be entirely secure. When Hideyoshi died in 1598, the balance he had created began to shift. His heir was still a child. The great lords who had once followed him now measured their own strength. Among them rose a new force, the Tokugawa. To them, Osaka Castle was not merely a residence. It was the final symbol of a rival legacy. As long as it stood under Toyotomi control, the unification of Japan remained incomplete. In the winter of 1614, the first siege began. The scale was unlike anything seen before in samurai warfare. More than 200,000 soldiers surrounded the fortress. Camps spread across the landscape. Banners moved like fields of color in the cold air. Cannons, still a relatively new presence in Japanese battle, thundered against the outer defenses. Their sound marked the arrival of a different kind of war, one in which traditional courage met the force of new technology. The outer fortifications fell, but the inner citadel held. Through negotiation and strategy, a temporary peace was reached, and for a brief moment it seemed that the castle might survive. But the following summer, the conflict returned. The final assault of 1615 came with fire and overwhelming numbers. Flames climbed the white walls. Smoke swallowed the golden roofs. The spaces that had once held ceremony and music became battlefields. Within these grounds, the Toyotomi lineage came to its end. The fortress that had symbolized unity became a monument to loss. For centuries afterward, the site passed through cycles of destruction and renewal. Lightning struck the tower, fires consumed its structures, war reshaped the landscape, and yet, each time, it was rebuilt according to the same vision. The form remained constant, as if the idea of Osaka Castle was stronger than the material from which it was made. Today, more than 2.5 million visitors walk through Osaka Castle Park each year. They cross the same bridges once guarded by samurai. They follow paths that were designed for armies. They stand before the same stones that were placed there as declarations of authority. But the atmosphere has changed. The tension of siege has dissolved into the sound of wind moving through trees. The echo of commands has been replaced by quiet footsteps in museum halls. From the observation deck, the modern city stretches outward in every direction, glass, steel, and movement surrounding the ancient tower. It is a view in which centuries exist at once. What was once a seat of military command has become a place of reflection. Children run across the open grounds where soldiers once assembled. Photographs are taken where banners once stood. The moats, which once mirrored armor and weapons, now reflect clouds and passing seasons. And still, the gold shines in the sunlight. Still, the walls stand without speaking. Their silence is not emptiness, it is memory. They tell a story of a man who believed he could shape a nation, of a fortress built to make that belief visible, of battles that decided the course of history, and of the long passage of time that transforms power into heritage. Osaka Castle teaches us that authority is never permanent, but presence can be, that ambition can raise structures that outlive their creators, that beauty and conflict often share the same ground. As we walk away from its gates, we carry with us more than images of white walls and golden roofs. We carry the understanding that history is not something distant. It is something that remains in stone, in water, in the spaces where events once unfolded. Thank you for walking through history with us. If this journey has brought you a sense of wonder and reflection, subscribe and join us for the next cinematic exploration into the world's great royal legacies, where every palace, every fortress, and every garden holds another story waiting to be revealed.